Court ruling that President Trump does not have the legal authority to impose sweeping global tariffs without congressional approval. Right now, we want to try to answer a question a lot of you may be asking. What does that mean for me? So joining us now is Eswar Prasad, a renowned economist and a professor at Cornell University. Sir, thank you so much for joining us live this afternoon.
My pleasure.
And first, what does this ruling mean for tariffs? Is this an end to all tariffs? Talk to us about this.
Not quite. It's going to create a lot of uncertainty because what the Supreme Court has basically said is that President Trump cannot use his executive powers and invoke national security as a basis for tariffs. And that is the basis that Trump has used to apply tariffs to imports from practically every trading partner. But the administration has many other tools it can use, but each of those tools requires, some procedures, and it's going to take a lot more time. So it basically means that Trump is going to be constrained in his use of tariffs, but it's certainly not going to prevent him from using tariffs. In the short run, though, it does mean that many of the tariffs that are in place against major trading partner countries are going to come off because of the Supreme Court ruling, and it'll take time to replace them. So a lot of uncertainty and volatility ahead, but tariffs aren't going away.
Yeah, and we know the president is already promising some action. You talk about some of these other tools and avenues we might see the president use. What are some of those?
So just to be clear, what he used right now does not require congressional approval because it is based on national security considerations. But there are other tools that will allow the administration to make the case that foreign exporters are damaging the interests of American producers. So in other words, if we can prove that in particular industries that foreign countries are subsidizing their producers or dumping goods in the U.S., or taking other actions that hurt U.S. manufacturers or disadvantage them, that is certainly a basis for tariffs. But that requires establishing that in each of these cases that, in fact, there is damage being done to U.S. manufacturers because of unfair practices by other countries rather than just, competition, which could be seen as fair. But it'll have to be done industry by industry rather than country by country, which certainly increases the administrative burden. But certainly this administration has shown that it is willing to take those steps. And already they had signaled that they would take those steps if the Supreme Court ruling went against them, which it has.
Changing the rules of the game quite a bit there, Professor. Thank you. You know, this all just face value feels like a legal mess. I believe Justice Kavanaugh actually used that specific word in his opinion. What does this decision potentially mean for the everyday person and for businesses and corporations mixed up in this?
For businesses and corporations, it creates a lot more uncertainty right now because, the tariffs were a problem for many businesses, especially those running their supply chains through multiple countries, because it was not clear what products were going to be exposed to tariffs and at what stages of the supply chain. Now we don't know, which industries, again, are going to have a reimposition of tariffs once these tariffs get taken out. We don't know which countries are going to be exposed to those tariffs. So it's a lot of uncertainty. For consumers, it doesn't, again, change things very much because the tariffs are going to come back one way or the other. And as far as the Trump administration is concerned, this is just a bump in the road. So I don't think it's necessarily going to mean lower prices. And there is also the bigger issue of what happens to tariffs that have already been collected. There is a lot of uncertainty whether this ruling by the Supreme Court basically means that some corporations are going to get refunds of those tariffs, which they ended up paying to the U.S. government. In any case, I don't think consumers are going to see much benefit from this, and all the uncertainty could actually hurt businesses and ultimately come back to hurt consumers as well.
And lastly, Professor, this ruling, how does this impact the U.S.'s negotiating power with other countries? Does it weaken our leverage in the global economy?
On the face of it, it does weaken the U.S. negotiating power because it means that Trump cannot use the threat of tariffs willy-nilly to accomplish any economic or geopolitical objective. But every country that is dealing with the U.S. knows that the administration does have other tools, so it doesn't fundamentally alter the negotiating balance. But in the short run, it certainly makes it a little more complicated for the U.S. to use the threat of tariffs against trading partners.
Just a different method. Eswar Prasad, thank you so much for joining us here. Economist professor at Cornell University. So much insight you provided on what truly is a complicated and uncertain time right now.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. All right.